There is a reason why, despite the passing of time, despite the silence, and despite the decisions you have already made, that person still lingers in your mind like a whisper that never fades. Perhaps you have tried everything, changing your environment, keeping yourself busy, even convincing yourself that you have moved on from that story. And yet they return in dreams, in memories, in songs, in words spoken by others without intention. Why does this presence refuse to disappear? What does it truly mean to keep thinking about someone who is no longer an active part of your life? Carl Jung would not have dismissed it as mere attachment or emotional dependency. For him, the unconscious mind operates with reasons that the conscious mind does not yet fully comprehend. When someone remains deeply engraved in your inner world, it is not necessarily a sign that you should reunite with them. It is not even proof that love is still alive. Instead, it signifies that there is something within you that has yet to be seen, acknowledged, or healed. Something that this person came to reveal. Jung taught that our relationships are not random. Every person who enters our life, especially those who leave an emotional imprint, serves a psychic function. They act as mirrors, reflecting what we have yet to recognize within ourselves. That persistent mental presence may have little to do with the person themselves and more to do with what they represented. Perhaps they triggered an old wound, embodied an unconscious image you have carried since childhood, or served as a catalyst for an internal awakening that you have yet to fully understand. For this reason, constantly thinking about someone is not necessarily a sign of unresolved love, but of an incomplete inner process. The mind, when it does not fully comprehend an experience, repeats it. It repeats it to understand. It repeats it to heal. And as long as the lesson remains unintegrated, it will keep returning. Jung stated clearly, "What you do not make conscious will manifest in your life as fate." If, instead of fighting against these thoughts, you choose to listen to them, not from nostalgia or longing, but from deep curiosity, what part of you was activated by that person? What wounds did they touch? What emotions did they force you to confront? Because if you are constantly thinking about someone, it is not them demanding your attention. It is a part of yourself that was illuminated through that relationship. Sometimes the mind insists because something within you remains incomplete, and that unfinished work is not outside of you, nor is it with the other person. It is within you. This is where true inner work begins. It is not about forcefully severing ties or pretending that they never existed. It is about facing the emotional truth they left behind, because as long as you keep running from it, it will continue to chase you. This is not about idealizing the past or clinging to something that no longer exists. It is about understanding that your unconscious mind is still working with that bond. Jung explained that when an emotional experience is not integrated, it becomes an energetic knot in your psyche, a knot that influences your decisions, your future relationships, and even your self-esteem. That is why, when you think of that person, you are not simply reliving the past out of weakness. You are revisiting something unresolved, something that is still waiting to be untangled, not with rejection, but with compassion. And no, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not weak for still thinking about someone. You are human. And you are going through one of the deepest processes a soul can experience, the integration of an emotional experience that transformed your life. Do not punish yourself for it. Instead, be grateful that your mind is showing you exactly what still needs your love and presence. Many times, we believe that love is what binds us to someone. But love is not always the force that keeps us attached. Sometimes, it is an unresolved emotion, an unconscious need, or an image we projected without realizing it. According to Carl Jung, we do not love with the heart alone. We love with the entire psyche. And within that psyche are fragments of history, repressed desires, fears we have yet to confront, and symbols that guide us towards something we need to learn. So if you still find yourself thinking about that person, it may not be love. It may be a psychic resonance. Something within you responded to something within them, and that response has not yet been fully integrated. Thinking constantly about someone may be the manifestation of an activated archetype. Perhaps they represented the figure of a savior, an ideal, an emotional refuge, or even a shadow disguised as light. Carl Jung explained that the collective unconscious is filled with universal images that reside within all of us. These archetypes are deeply embedded in our psyche, shaping our perceptions, emotions, and experiences in ways we often do not consciously realize. When someone activates one of these profound images within us, the impact is so deep that even after their departure, the sensation of something missing lingers. This absence is not necessarily because that person is irreplaceable, but because the symbol they embodied has yet to be fully understood or integrated within us. That persistent thought, that constant mental presence of someone who is no longer part of our life, is often not about them at all. Instead, it is a search for closure, but not closure with them. It is a search for closure within yourself. Your unconscious is calling you back to the moment when everything changed, not so you can remain stuck there, but so you can reclaim what you lost when you gave yourself away without reservation. Perhaps you sacrificed parts of yourself for love. Maybe you silenced your voice to avoid conflict, altered your nature to fit into their world, or suppressed your desires to maintain harmony. And even though that person is no longer present in your life, the echo of that self-abandonment continues to reverberate within you. Every time you think of them, your unconscious might not be longing for the relationship itself, but trying to return to you what you once surrendered. It is telling you, look here. Here is where a silent agreement was made, where you ceased to be fully yourself. It is not that you necessarily want to rekindle the relationship. Rather, a part of you desires to come home to yourself. And that, according to Jung, is the true spiritual work. To retrieve what was lost in the journey of love, even when love meant forgetting yourself. Thinking about someone is not always about nostalgia. Sometimes it is a form of resistance to growth. Because growing requires accepting that, no matter how meaningful that story was, it has already fulfilled its purpose. And here lies the internal conflict between the conscious and the unconscious. Your rational mind understands that it is time to move forward, yet your unconscious still seeks understanding. It does not want to simply forget. It wants to integrate. It wants to make sense of the experience, to transform the wound into wisdom. And for that, you need presence, not more distractions, not more desperate attempts to silence your thoughts. Instead, what is required is an honest and compassionate gaze into what truly happened. What did you discover about yourself in that relationship? What parts of you blossomed, and which parts withered away? Who did you truly love? The person or the image you created of them? These are not just casual reflections. They are keys that unlock inner doors that have remained shut since it all ended. Your soul knows that thinking about this person is not a mistake. It is a call to wake up. And the more you allow yourself to answer that call without judgment, the closer you come to true closure. The kind that does not depend on conversations, reunions, or external validation, but on a deep and personal acceptance. The story was what it needed to be. And now, the journey is about returning to yourself. When Carl Jung spoke of individuation, he was referring to this very process, the journey back to the self. Every intense relationship, every loss, every love that left its mark on your soul is part of that journey, not to define you, but to refine you. As if every person you have ever loved was a mirror reflecting hidden aspects of yourself, aspects you had yet to discover. And when you remember that person, what you are truly seeing is not them, but yourself, illuminated in a new way. There are connections that are not severed by absence. Some people do not need to be physically present to continue influencing your emotions, your thoughts, even your daily choices. That is the true depth of a psychological bond. It is not measured by physical proximity, but by the invisible imprint it leaves within you. And that imprint, according to Jung, is not merely the residue of love. It is the result of a resonance between your unconscious and the symbolic role that person played in your life. It is not that you are trapped in the past because of weakness. Rather, it is because your soul still has something to tell you through that story, something you may not have been able to hear while you were emotionally entangled. When we are deeply immersed in a relationship, especially one that touches the very core of our being, clarity is difficult to maintain. The intensity of emotions clouds our judgment. Our feelings dominate our perspective. But when everything ends, when silence settles in, then arises the true opportunity for understanding. And thinking about that person is not necessarily a regression. It can be the beginning of profound realization, the emergence of wisdom that has been waiting to unfold within you. Carl Jung believed that human encounters, especially the most significant ones, are not mere coincidences. They are meetings between souls that recognize each other at a level far deeper than the conscious mind can perceive. This is why, even when you rationally try to move on, something within you resists. There is an unresolved message, a lesson encoded within that experience, waiting to be fully understood. That message is not in the other person. It is within you. It lies in what that relationship awakened, what it stirred within your being, and how it transformed you. Many times, we convince ourselves that if we could just understand the other person, why they did what they did, why they left, why they hurt us, we would finally find closure. But the truth is, closure is never dependent on what the other person says or does. It depends entirely on what you are willing to see within yourself. Perhaps they hurt you. Perhaps they betrayed you, disappointed you, or left you without an explanation. But beyond the pain, there is a lesson your soul needs to integrate. And that lesson does not come through logic. It comes through the emotional experience that still lingers inside of you. What remains in your mind is not the person themselves, but the unresolved emotional experience. It is an incomplete process, suspended in time, waiting to be acknowledged, felt, and ultimately released. More often than not, what we struggle to let go of is not the person. It is the part of ourselves that emerged in their presence. It is the version of you that surfaced during that connection, the one you may not have fully understood, the one you are still unsure if it deserved love. It is that vulnerable facet of yourself, perhaps one you did not even know existed, that was rejected or ignored. And because you did not know how to process that rejection, your mind clings to it, replaying it, analyzing it, reliving it, until you can integrate it with love. You do not need more external answers. What you need is to allow yourself to feel what you have been avoiding. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." And often, the persistence of a thought is nothing more than the result of avoiding an emotion. So ask yourself, what did you truly feel during that experience? What fear was so overwhelming that you decided to bury it? What part of you was silenced in order to maintain that connection? This is the true source of the attachment that still binds you. Liberation is not a straight path, nor is it immediate. It is a descent into the depths of your soul. And though it may be painful, that very pain is proof that something within you is awakening. Perhaps what you truly need is not to stop thinking about that person, but to stop judging yourself for doing so. Because as long as you fight your own thoughts, you will not be able to access the message they hold. And that message is the key to your growth, your healing, and your transformation. Your unconscious is guiding you towards something greater, not toward the return of a person, but toward the return to yourself, to that place where you feel whole without needing external validation. Because when you finally understand what that person represented, when you integrate the meaning of their presence in your life, you no longer need them to be physically present in order to find peace. And that is true freedom, when you can remember without pain, when you can release without fear, when you can love without attachment. At some point, you may have tried to replace that person. Maybe you did it consciously, seeking someone to fill the void. Or perhaps, without realizing it, you started comparing every new person to the one who is no longer there. But no matter how much you try, the feeling lingers, as if nothing quite fits, as if no new story resonates the same way inside you. And that is not because this person was irreplaceable. It is because the connection you had with them was not just human. It was symbolic. It activated a part of you that you had never met before. And now, your journey is to meet that part of yourself, not through the presence of another, but through your own self-discovery. That is where healing begins. That is where you reclaim your power. That is where you find the version of you that does not just survive without them, but thrives. Jung explained that every deep bond in our lives activates an inner dimension, a hidden layer of our psyche that often remains dormant until a profound connection awakens it. When you miss someone, you are not just longing for their presence. You are yearning for the version of yourself that existed when you were with them. Perhaps you were more vulnerable, more open, more connected to your emotions. Or maybe, in that bond, you lost yourself, sacrificing parts of your essence to maintain the illusion of togetherness. In both cases, thinking about that person is, at its core, thinking about a part of yourself that needs to be rescued, understood, and embraced. This is the key that transforms memory into wisdom. Your unconscious mind is constantly working to restore balance within you. It is not your enemy. It does not want you to suffer or remain stuck in the past. Instead, it uses the tools at its disposal, dreams, recurring thoughts, unexpected emotions, to guide you toward integration. If a person frequently appears in your mind, it is because there is an unresolved emotional story within you that has not yet been fully processed, not through logic, but through symbolism. According to Jung, healing is not a rational process. It is an inner alchemy, an unconscious transformation that only occurs when you allow the unknown within you to become conscious. This alchemy cannot be rushed. It requires stillness, introspection, and the ability to appreciate the significance of what you have lived, not from a place of guilt or longing, but from gratitude. Gratitude not for what was lost, but for what was learned. Because every connection that leaves a mark on us carries within it a seed of transformation. Even if, at this moment, all you can perceive is pain or confusion, buried within that experience is an essential component of your awakening. The goal is not to erase the memory, but to release the weight that it carries. And that is only possible when you stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward, recognizing your role in everything you have felt. Not to blame yourself, but to reclaim your power. The power to understand why you clung so tightly, why you idealized that person, why the loss hurt so deeply. Jung believed that the unconscious stores our experiences not just as memories, but as living symbols that shape our perception of reality. Perhaps this person, without even realizing it, was the catalyst for your transformation, a mirror reflecting parts of yourself that were ready to emerge. And now, what you perceive as attachment may simply be a stage in that process of inner revelation. You do not need to force this person out of your mind. Instead, you need to understand what they represent. What part of you did they awaken? What unfulfilled promise still echoes in your soul? Only then can you turn the page without feeling that something remains unfinished. It is not about forgetting. It is about closing the chapter from the heart. And true closure happens when you recognize that real love does not always take the form of permanence. Sometimes, love comes to reveal something to us, and then it leaves. When we fail to accept this, the soul remains trapped in an endless waiting that leads nowhere. Your mind is not the problem. Your emotions are not the problem. The real conflict arises when you try to force forgetting without having completed understanding. And this is where Jung invites us to go deeper, to stop searching for external solutions and instead engage in dialogue with that wounded part of ourselves that still longs to be seen and heard. Because that is the only way the image of that person will stop haunting you. Not because you have erased them, but because they no longer have anything left to teach you. When someone continues to appear in your mind despite time, distance, and logic telling you that there is nothing left to hold on to, what is truly manifesting is not that person. It is an internal process that you have yet to complete. It is a psychic movement seeking resolution, calling for your attention from the depths of your being. And no matter how many times you try to ignore it, the unconscious does not disappear through denial. It simply transforms into symptoms, into repetitive thoughts, into emotions that defy explanation, into decisions that you struggle to understand. It will persist until you acknowledge it, until you face it, and until you finally integrate it into your wholeness. According to Carl Jung, the soul possesses its own intelligence, an ancient wisdom that does not adhere to the rules of logic or the linear progression of time. Instead, it moves through symbols, images, and emotionally charged experiences. If your soul continues to return to a certain person, it is because something significant happened there, something that needs to be retrieved. Not to go back, but to reclaim a part of yourself that you have yet to integrate. That person could have been light or shadow, comfort or wound. But what truly matters now is not what they were, but what they awakened within you. Many times, we engage in relationships from a place of invisible lack. We search in others for what we have not been able to give ourselves, and when that relationship ends, we feel as though something has been torn away from us. But what truly hurts is not the loss of the other person. It is the emptiness that has been exposed. Jung believed that every loss is also an opportunity, an invitation to see that emptiness not as a punishment, but as fertile ground where something new can grow. But for this to happen, you must stop focusing on the absence of the other and begin to understand what that absence is trying to teach you. This is not about filling the space with distractions. It is not about hardening yourself or pretending that nothing happened. It is about descending into that place where it still hurts, with the willingness to understand. Because when you dare to look at pain with awareness, it stops controlling you. It no longer defines you. Instead, it becomes a portal to something deeper. Jung taught that it is in moments of crisis that the soul has the opportunity to expand, and this persistent mental urge to return to someone may be your inner crisis, pushing you toward growth, urging you to see beyond what is immediately apparent. Not everything you feel is a sign to take action externally. Sometimes, what you feel is an invitation to turn inward, to explore your own history, your emotional needs, and your relational patterns. You may be unconsciously repeating a bond that you have known long before, perhaps one that originated in childhood with figures who left an emotional imprint on you. And this person, the one who now lingers in your thoughts, may have activated that old bond without you even realizing it. Not to confuse you, but to offer you a new opportunity to heal. When you understand this, something shifts. You no longer see that person as an obsession or an open wound, but as a symbol urging you to look at what you have been avoiding. Maybe it was the need to feel validated. Maybe it was the fear of not being enough. Maybe it was the hope that someone would come and complete you. And in recognizing this, you reclaim your power. Because what you once believed only the other person could give you begins to bloom from within. This is deep work. It is not comfortable, but it is transformative. It is about seeing what that relationship revealed about you. It is about extracting meaning from the memory. It is about being grateful even for what hurt. Because that pain illuminated something that needed to be healed. When you do this, your energy shifts. You are no longer at war with what was. You are no longer waiting for the thoughts to disappear. Instead, you are embracing what belongs to you. The lessons, the growth, the seed of a new version of yourself that emerged because of that encounter. There will come a moment when that person stops appearing in your mind with the same intensity, not because you erase them, nor because you replace them, but because they no longer occupy the same space within you. The memory will remain as part of your story, but it will no longer hurt. It will no longer disturb you. It will no longer dictate your emotions. And on that day, without even realizing it, you will have completed a cycle. Because what truly gets released is not the person, it is the energy you unknowingly invested in them. It is the expectation you placed upon them. It is the part of you that was still waiting for answers or a different ending. And when all of that transforms, what remains is peace. A deep, genuine peace. Not the kind you fake to move on, but the kind that comes when you no longer need to understand everything, to feel at ease. Jung said that there is no awakening of consciousness without pain. And yes, thinking constantly about someone can be a form of pain, but it can also be a sign that you are on the edge of a transformation. Do not run from what you feel. Do not punish yourself for remembering. Listen to what your soul is trying to tell you through those thoughts, because behind every emotion, there is a truth waiting to be revealed. And that truth is not outside of you. It has always been within. You have gone through a process that many people experience, but few dare to look at with true depth. If you are listening to this, if you have made it this far, it is because something within you is ready to let go. Not from forgetfulness, but from understanding. Not from rejection, but from love for yourself. That is the closure your soul needs. And when you do this, not only do you heal yourself, but you also pave the way for others to do the same. Because your process has meaning. Your pain has meaning. And so does your awakening. If this message resonated with you, if at any moment you felt as if we were speaking directly to your soul, then I invite you to be part of this growing community. This is not just a space for content. It is a space for connection, for understanding, and for transformation. Every time you share what you feel, every time you leave a comment expressing your experience, every time you give a like or share this video, you are doing something much bigger than you realize. You are helping this message reach someone who desperately needs it. You are becoming a link in a chain of light, a guiding force that may lead someone to the clarity they have been searching for. There are people out there, just like you, who are experiencing the same emotions, facing the same struggles, but they haven't yet found the words to express what they feel. They might still be lost in confusion, in doubt, in uncertainty. And maybe, just maybe, you are the bridge that will lead them to a moment of realization. Maybe your comment, your engagement, your presence here will be the sign they were waiting for, to know that they are not alone. This channel exists for a reason, to remind you that your emotions matter, that your inner work, the effort you put into understanding yourself, healing and evolving, is not just changing your life, it is inspiring others to change theirs as well. So, if this content has touched something deep within you, if it has sparked a realization, a feeling of connection, or even just a moment of peace, let it be known. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, express what this journey means to you. Not out of obligation, not because it's expected, but because together we are creating something greater than ourselves, a space where deep knowledge, emotional healing, and authenticity are not just ideas, but realities. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with an open heart, for daring to look inward, for allowing yourself to feel, to question, to grow. This is your moment. You are living it with courage, and that is something truly powerful. I'll see you in the next video. Have you ever felt like you're desperately waiting for something that never arrives? Maybe it's someone's love, their attention, their respect, or even just a small shift in the way they treat you. You try so hard, you give your time, your energy, your heart. You put effort into every word, every gesture, every moment, hoping that it will be enough to make a difference. And yet, despite everything you do, nothing seems to change. It's like screaming into a void, like offering pieces of your soul to someone who doesn't even notice the sacrifice. You start to question yourself. Am I not enough? What more can I give? What am I doing wrong? But what if I told you that the real key to changing those relationships isn't found in trying harder, giving more, or waiting longer? What if the change you're looking for doesn't start with them, it starts with you? Today, we're going to explore a powerful truth that Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, left us as a legacy. When you stop seeking external validation and align yourself with your most authentic essence, the world begins to respond in unexpected ways. It's not magic, it's a natural law of the human psyche. Think about that moment when you cling to someone who doesn't value you, a distant partner, an absent friend, or a boss who doesn't recognize your efforts. They stay with you, hoping something will change, that they'll see you. But that impulse to beg doesn't come from them. It comes from you, from a part of your unconscious that has yet to be explored. Jung dedicated his life to studying that deep place where your fears, desires, and your purest truth reside. And he discovered something powerful. When you stop focusing on the external and begin to truly listen to yourself, you reclaim your power. And as a reflection, the world changes with you. Because he wasn't just a psychologist, Jung was a true soul guide. He spent decades exploring how our minds work beneath the surface of what we see. He believed each of us carries within an entire universe, an inner world filled with symbols, intuitions, and emotions that quietly guide us, even when we fail to pay attention. One of his most powerful ideas is that what we experience in the outside world, relationships, conflicts, joy, is a direct reflection of what's happening inside of us. So if you find yourself begging for love, for respect, or for someone's attention, it's not just bad luck. It's a sign something deep within your unconscious is calling for you to wake up. Take a breath and sit with this thought. How many times have you heard that inner whisper saying, "This doesn't feel right"? Maybe it was in a relationship that looked perfect on the outside. The cute social media photos, the sweet words, but something inside you felt off, like an invisible emptiness. Or maybe it was with a friend who always had reasons not to show up when you needed them most, and yet you kept making excuses, hoping they'd finally change. Jung would say that whisper isn't a nuisance, it's your unconscious speaking. It doesn't use direct language. It communicates through feelings, instincts, even strange dreams that shake you awake. And when you ignore it, when you keep chasing what leaves you empty, you drift further from yourself. Let's look at a real example, something many of us can relate to. Picture Sophia, a 32-year-old woman who's spent months trying to get her partner to give her more attention. She cooks elaborate dinners, writes him long messages, stays up waiting for him, but he gets home late, replies with one-word answers, and seems lost in another world. Sophia believes that if she tries harder, if she shows him just how much she loves him, he'll finally see her. But every day, she feels more drained, more invisible. Now think about Luis, a 40-year-old man with a boss who never acknowledges his efforts. Luis stays late at the office. He delivers flawless projects, but his boss only points out what's missing. Luis keeps silently begging for a simple well done, but nothing ever changes. What do Sophia and Luis have in common? Both are trapped in a cycle of begging, seeking outside what can only be found within. Jung teaches us that this urge to beg comes from a specific place, the disconnection from our own authenticity. When we don't know who we are at our core, when we don't honor our own energy, we let others decide how much we're worth. And this is where one of his key concepts comes in, the shadow. The shadow, according to Jung, is that part of ourselves we hide, deny, or repress because it doesn't fit the image we want to show the world. For Sophia, her shadow might be the fear of being alone. For Luis, the fear of not being good enough. And unless they face those shadows, they'll keep begging, because deep down, they believe they don't deserve more. But what happens when you decide to stop begging? Imagine Sophia one day gets tired, not of her partner, but of feeling invisible. She sits down with herself, takes a deep breath, and asks, "What do I truly want? Do I deserve to wait around for crumbs?" Something inside her shifts. She chooses to set boundaries. No more elaborate dinners for someone who doesn't care. No more unanswered messages. And suddenly, her partner notices the change, not because she demanded it, but because her energy transformed. Jung would explain it this way: by integrating her shadow, by accepting she deserves love without pleading, Sophia stopped projecting need and began to radiate dignity. And the universe, or more precisely, the collective unconscious, another of Jung's concepts, responds to that new vibration. The collective unconscious is like an invisible ocean connecting all people. Jung believed we all share certain deep patterns, like archetypes or universal molds of behavior. When you shift your energy, when you stop begging and align with your truth, that shift doesn't just affect you, it ripples outward. It's like tossing a stone into a still lake. The waves reach far. Take Luis, for example. He realizes his worth isn't tied to his boss's approval. He starts working with self-respect. He sets boundaries, says no to unnecessary overtime, and suddenly, his boss, or even a new job offer, shows up to recognize him. Coincidence? Jung would say no. It's synchronicity, that moment when the outside world mirrors your inner transformation. Let's pause right here. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, where in your life are you still begging? Is it a draining relationship, a job that doesn't see your value, or maybe a version of yourself you've slowly abandoned? Don't rush to answer. Let the question linger. This is the first step Jung invites us to take, to listen. And if this message is already making you reflect, I ask you to do something simple. Leave a comment below saying, "I'm ready to stop begging." It's a declaration to yourself. And beyond that, it helps this video reach others who need to hear this. If this resonates with you, share the video with someone else who's also seeking answers. Let's build a brave community together. Now back to Jung. He believed real growth doesn't happen on the easy road, the one everyone walks. Picture yourself standing at a fork. One path is well lit, safe, filled with people. The other is shadowed, uncertain, and lonely. Most choose what's familiar, like continuing to beg for what never comes. But Jung insisted that the path to your true self, to a fulfilling life, lies in the unknown. That's where you meet your shadow. That's where you finally see who you are. And when you do, something powerful shifts. You no longer crave from others what you already hold inside. Think about it. Every time you beg for love, attention, or respect, you're telling your subconscious, "I'm not enough." And your subconscious listens. It reflects in how others treat you, in the relationships you attract. But when you stop begging, when you decide your energy is sacred, you're telling your unconscious, "I am worthy." And that message changes everything. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic self, by integrating every part of you, even the ones you don't like. It's not easy, but it's freeing. Let's try a practical exercise right now, something you can actually take away from this video. Take a moment, yes, right now, and write down in a note or silently in your mind. What am I begging others to give me that I might actually give myself? Maybe it's love, maybe it's peace, maybe it's respect. Then write down a clear action. Something like, I will give myself an hour a day. Or I will say no when something doesn't feel right. This is not just inspiration. This is a tool Jung would absolutely approve of. He believed that transformation starts with conscious acts. So what have we discovered so far? That begging is a sign you're disconnected from your essence, that your shadow, the hidden side of you, holds the key to your freedom, and that when you stop seeking outside what already exists within, other people's behavior toward you shifts. But this is just the beginning. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how the relationships you choose, or the ones you release, reflect your inner world, and how Jung teaches us to let go of what was never ours to begin with. So stay with me, because it only gets more powerful from here. If you're ready to keep going, hit like on this video and subscribe with notifications on. See you in a bit. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is ready to let go of what doesn't belong and embrace what truly does. In the first part, we talked about how giving up begging doesn't just change your energy, it changes how others respond to you. All rooted in Carl Jung's ideas. We saw how the unconscious, that deep force Jung studied all his life, speaks to us constantly, and how the shadow, those denied parts of us, holds the power to restore our inner strength. Now let's take this even further. What about those draining relationships that leave you feeling stuck or doomed to fail? Jung had a clear answer. They're not coincidences. They are mirrors of your inner reality. Letting go might just be the most powerful thing you ever do for yourself. Picture this. You're in a relationship, romantic, friendly, or even family, where you give your all and get very little. Every talk feels like work. Every meeting leaves you tired. Maybe you try to explain it away. They're just going through something. If I change, they'll change. But deep down, you know something doesn't fit. Jung would say, these relationships aren't punishments from fate. They are messages from your unconscious. He believed everything we experience outwardly is a projection, a reflection of what lives within us. So, if you're stuck in relationships that make you beg, ask yourself, what part of me is projecting this need? Let's look at a realistic case. Think of Mariana, a 28-year-old woman from Bogota. She's been with her boyfriend for 3 years, yet feels like he's never truly there. She plans their dates, sends loving messages, but he replies with coldness or just ignores her. Mariana keeps begging for his attention, believing that if she's more understanding, maybe he'll turn back into the affectionate man she first fell for. Now picture Juan, a 35-year-old man from Los Angeles. He's had a friend for years who only shows up when he needs something: money, a favor, a place to crash, emotional support. Juan always says yes, hoping someday this friend will recognize his loyalty, but it never happens. So, what's going on here? Jung would say Mariana and Juan are stuck dancing with their shadows. The shadow, as we mentioned before, is everything we repress, fears, insecurities, desires we don't want to admit. For Mariana, it could be a fear of abandonment. For Juan, a need to feel needed. And as long as they avoid facing those shadows, they'll keep attracting people who mirror them. Jung explained that the people who drain us aren't the actual problem, they're symptoms. They're mirrors reflecting what we need to face and integrate. But here's the twist. You don't have to stay in these relationships to heal. Letting go, stopping the chase for something they don't give you, that's the first real step toward freedom. Pause for a second and reflect. Is there someone in your life who makes you feel like this? Someone you keep pleading with, hoping they'll change? Don't judge your answer. Just notice it. Jung invites us to look within without fear, because real freedom lives in that honesty. And if something in this is resonating with you, leave a comment below saying, "I'm ready to let go." It's a small action, but it holds power. Also, share this video with someone who might need this message. Together, we can help each other grow. Let's return to Jung. He believed our relationships are mirrors of our psyche, that mix of conscious and unconscious layers that define us. When you keep begging for love or respect, you're sending a message to your unconscious mind. I don't deserve to receive unless I beg. And your unconscious begins projecting that belief outward. But when you choose to release, when you say, "My energy is sacred and I won't spend it on those who don't value it," something shifts. You're not just freeing yourself, you're breaking a pattern. Jung called it withdrawing projections, no longer seeing in others what you haven't yet accepted in yourself. Think about Mariana again. One day, after yet another night, waiting for a message that never came, she decides she's done. She doesn't fight, doesn't plead. She just realizes she deserves better. She starts pouring into herself, goes out with her friends, picks up a painting class she once abandoned, listens to her own voice, and something unexpected happens. Her boyfriend, who once ignored her, begins to seek her out. It's not manipulation. Her energy transformed. Jung would describe it as a shift in the collective unconscious. When you align with your truth, the people around you feel that shift, that new vibration. Sometimes they adjust, other times they leave. And that's okay, because what doesn't resonate with you isn't meant for you. Juan does something similar. He chooses to set a boundary with his friend. "I can't help you this time." At first, the friend gets upset, but Juan stays firm. And little by little, he starts noticing that other people, new friends, co-workers, begin to enter his life with a kind of respect he never had to ask for. This is what Jung called synchronicity, events that look random, but are actually connected to your inner transformation. When you stop begging, the universe sends you what truly matches your energy. Let's pause here. Take a deep breath and think about a relationship in your life that's draining you. You don't have to end it today, but imagine what it would feel like to release the need to chase after their attention. Jung didn't just give us theories, he gave us tools. One of them is self-observation. Grab a journal or your phone and write, "What is this relationship revealing about me?" If someone makes you feel small, what insecurity in you is being reflected? If they exhaust you, what boundary aren't you setting? Then write down one action. "I'll say no this week," or "I'll spend a whole day doing something I love." That's individuation in motion. The process of integrating your shadow and becoming your most authentic self isn't magic, it's a beginning. And if letting go scares you, that's normal. Jung said, "We resist change because we fear the emptiness it leaves behind." If you release that person, who fills that space? If you stop begging, what if you end up alone? This is where another of his ideas comes in. Emptiness isn't something to fear, it's sacred space. Like a garden that you prune. You clear away the dead branches, so something new can grow. When you release what no longer serves you, you give the universe space to bring in what actually does. And believe me, something better always arrives. Think about it. How many times have you felt stuck in a relationship or a situation that just doesn't flow? Obstacles everywhere, constant misunderstandings, endless fights. It's easy to blame the other person or bad luck, but Jung invites us to see it differently. Those blocks are signs. It's your unconscious telling you, this isn't for you. And when you let it go, you don't just regain your peace. You open the door to connections that don't require effort to sustain. It's like swimming with the current instead of against it. Let's try something together. Imagine that today you choose to release a relationship or an expectation that weighs you down. You don't have to do it literally, just picture it. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the relief. How does your body respond? What shifts in your mind? Jung would say, that feeling is your unconscious thanking you. And if you're brave enough to take that step in real life, tell me in the comments. I want to hear how it goes. So what are we discovering? That relationships where you're constantly begging reflect your shadow. Letting go isn't giving up, it's aligning with your truth. And when you do that, synchronicity starts working in your favor. In the next part, we'll wrap up this journey by exploring how living from your authenticity changes everything. Your relationships, your dreams, your entire life. So don't go anywhere. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in just a moment. We've reached the end of this journey, but really, it's only the beginning for you. So far, we've explored how to stop begging and let go of what holds you back. It changes how others respond to you, all through the lens of Carl Jung's ideas. We saw how your unconscious speaks to you, how your shadow holds the keys to your power, and how draining relationships mirror your inner world. Now we'll tie it all together to see how living from authenticity, the deep place Jung called individuation, doesn't just change your connections, it transforms your entire existence. Get ready, because this is the path to a life that's not just full, but fully yours. Imagine not begging for love or respect or attention anymore. Imagine walking away from relationships that shrink you, that make you feel small. What's left? Not an empty space, like you might fear, but a place where you can be you. No masks, no pretending. Jung believed that the purpose of life isn't chasing surface-level happiness like those perfect Instagram smiles, but rather finding fulfillment. And fulfillment only comes when you reconnect with your true self, when you integrate your shadow and start listening to your unconscious. But what does that really look like in everyday life? Think of Carla, a 45-year-old woman from Mexico City. For years, she lived trying to please everyone, her partner, her kids, her job, always begging for a thank you, for one small moment of recognition. But one day, after complete burnout, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. She started reading Jung, reflecting on her shadow, that fear of not being loved if she ever stopped giving everything. So, she made a change. She stopped begging for approval. She set boundaries at home. She quit a toxic job. She started painting again, something she loved in her youth, and something incredible happened. Her family, who at first resisted, began to respect her more. Her partner, who used to take her for granted, started seeking her out with a tenderness she had long forgotten. Why? Because Carla stopped projecting need and started radiating authenticity. Now imagine Miguel, a 30-year-old man from Medellin. He always felt like his friends only kept him around as the group's clown, begging for his laughter, but never truly taking him seriously. Tired of the act, he decided to face his shadow, the fear of not fitting in. He began to speak up, to share his dream of starting a business, even if his voice trembled at first. Some friends drifted away, but others came closer with a new kind of respect. And suddenly, a client heard his idea and offered support. That's synchronicity. As Jung would say, when you live from your truth, the universe responds. Pause for a moment and breathe. What part of yourself have you been hiding just to fit in? What dream, what desire have you buried out of fear of rejection? Don't answer quickly. Let the question sink in. Jung teaches us that living authentically isn't comfortable at first. It's like walking down that dark path we mentioned earlier. It's scary, but it's where you grow. And if this is stirring something in you, leave a comment saying, "I'm going to be me." It's a promise to yourself. And share this video with someone who might need this little push. Let's inspire each other. Let's talk about how you get there. Jung said, individuation, becoming your truest self, is a journey, not a finish line. It begins by listening inward. Your unconscious doesn't shout, it whispers. It might be that uneasy feeling when someone speaks to you harshly, or that flicker of joy when you imagine doing something you've always dreamed of. For instance, if you feel a relationship is dimming your light, don't ignore it. Ask yourself, what is this showing me about who I am? If a forgotten dream keeps coming back into your thoughts, don't brush it off. Write it down. These are the symbols Jung studied, the clues from your psyche. Let's do something together right now. Grab your phone or a piece of paper and write, what do I really want for me? Not what others expect. Not what you should want. Be honest. Maybe it's quitting a job you can't stand, learning to dance salsa again, or simply feeling at peace. Then write one small step. Today, I'll search for a class. I'll say no to what drains me. This is individuation in action. Small steps bringing you closer to your essence. Jung would say that every step tells your unconscious, I'm ready to be me. But what happens to relationships when you live that way? Jung believed the people you choose to keep close shape your psyche. If you're surrounded by those who drain you, who make you beg, your energy dims. But once you release that and align with your truth, you begin attracting connections that uplift you. Think about Carla. When she stopped begging, her partner changed. Or Miguel. When he became authentic, he found friends who truly valued him. It's not about fixing others. It's that your new vibration filters what doesn't fit and draws in what does. Let's take another pause. Picture your life surrounded only by people who inspire you, who see you clearly and love you for it. How does that feel? If you'd like, share it in the comments. And if this video is giving you clarity, give it a like and subscribe with the bell on. This is for you, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. Now let's talk about chaos. Jung said there's no awakening without pain. Sometimes living from your truth brings storms, arguments, goodbyes, uncertainty. But that chaos isn't the end. It's the beginning. It's like winter before spring. For instance, if Carla hadn't faced her fear of disappointing her family, she'd still be stuck. If Miguel hadn't risked losing friends, he wouldn't have found his voice. Chaos is where you integrate your shadow, where your strength is born. The next time you feel like everything is falling apart, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Because as Jung said, when you live from your authenticity, the outside world begins to reflect your inner world. That's synchronicity. The right people arrive, opportunities open up, peace returns. Not because the universe is debuting you, but because you're projecting your truth. Stop begging. Let go of what doesn't nourish you and watch how everything begins to change. It's not magic, it's deep psychology. Do this exercise. Close your eyes and imagine your life. If you stopped begging for what drains you. If you said no when you feel it. If you sought out what ignites you and surrounded yourself with those who truly see you. What do you feel? Take that feeling with you and do something today that brings you closer to it. Jung would say that this is the beginning of your individuation. What does this journey teach you? That begging disconnects you. Your shadow is your ally. Letting go frees you, and living your truth changes everything. In short, stop looking outside for what already lives inside you. Listen carefully to your unconscious mind. Not just the loud, obvious thoughts, but the quiet ones too. The whispers, the gut feelings, the dreams that keep coming back, the emotions that rise out of nowhere. That is your truth, knocking at your door. Reflect on what you are going to let go of today, what you are going to embrace about yourself. If this video moved something in you, if even for a moment it felt like I was speaking directly to you, please give it a like, subscribe, share it with someone you love, someone you know is going through something. Let's spread this message to every corner of the world. Let's remind people that they're not alone, that there's a way through, that healing is possible. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember, the change you're waiting for starts with you. The world doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs your light, raw, radiant, real. Listen carefully. When your energy becomes too strong, you don't scare people. You awaken them. And not everyone wants to wake up. Some react as if you flash sunlight directly into their eyes. They squint. They get defensive. They make jokes that are really shields. Others rush toward you too quickly, like moths hypnotized by a lamp, drawn to warmth they don't yet know how to hold. What happens to you is not random. What happens to them isn't either. There is a hidden logic within the psyche that activates whenever an intense presence enters a room. This logic can't be read on faces. It's felt in the invisible field between bodies. Today, you're going to sharpen that sensitivity to understand why your mere presence shifts the dynamics around you. What are the signs that your energy is exceeding someone else's threshold? And how can you hold it without shrinking, without diluting yourself, without inflating? Because yes, there is a mature way to carry high inner voltage without burning anyone and without dimming your own light. Call energy, the flow of your attention, intention, and affection available in the present moment. It's the living current that moves your inner imagery, your imagination, your creative impulses, and your decisions. Wherever that current flows, something grows. Wherever you withdraw it, something cools. Others perceive this, even if they can't name it. They feel it in the density of your gaze, in the clarity with which you occupy your own space, in the harmony between your words and your gestures. They sense that within you there's a nucleus that doesn't negotiate its direction with the winds of approval. That nucleus does two things at once. It attracts and it provokes. It attracts what is ready to bloom, and it provokes what fears its own death. In other words, when you enter, their shadows enter too. That's why, if your energy is too strong, you'll notice reactions around you that seem exaggerated compared to what you actually said or did. That's the first sign. Emotional disproportionality in others. Pay attention to the micro-signals. Thick silences after your interventions. Jokes that aren't meant to be funny, but to cut you down. Unnecessary challenges. Subtle sarcasm disguised as curiosity. Sudden topic changes just when you touch something essential. Avoidant eyes that later send long messages saying what they couldn't say face to face. Little logistical coincidences that sabotage plans as if reality itself were conspiring to pull you back into the average. Don't take it personally. The psyche seeks homeostasis. A system accustomed to a certain level of intensity automatically resists when it encounters a higher gradient. It's self-protection. That resistance organizes itself into very clear patterns. The first is projection. Your most luminous traits, determination, clarity, serenity, work like mirrors, reflecting back to others what they have not yet recognized in themselves. Two modes appear: idealization and devaluation. Idealization puts you on a pedestal. Devaluation cuts you down until you fit their comfort zone. If you notice people switching rapidly between the two, it's not you who's changing. It's their inner images of you. The second pattern is the constellation of complexes. You say something neutral, yet it presses old emotional buttons and reactivates buried memories. You're not the cause, you're the trigger. The third pattern is transference. When you hold a stable internal axis, you awaken in others' effective movements directed toward inner figures of authority, care, or challenge. They speak to you as if you were that inner ghost. The fourth pattern is enantiodromia. Where much light appears, its complementary shadow inevitably follows. If you radiate too much certainty, a fog of doubt may rise around you. If you show great strength, passive-aggressive gestures may appear nearby. It's the pendulum of psyche seeking balance. So how can you confirm that your energy is surpassing someone's threshold? There are three main signs. First, acceleration or paralysis. Some people, in your presence, start to speed up without reason. They talk too fast, overshare, make grand promises they can't keep. Others freeze, lose words, forget what they were about to say. Second, temporal distortion. You ask for something today, and they respond a month later. You ask for something a month ahead, and they want it now. Time bends around your presence because your intention reorganizes priorities. That reordering generates anxiety in those who live in constant postponement. Third, boundary friction. When your field feels dense, some will invade it to test you, while others will withdraw abruptly to avoid being influenced. Both reactions stem from the same phenomenon. They feel your center and want to know if it's real or just a pose. Now, pay attention. An intense presence isn't loud. It's steady. It doesn't shout, doesn't push, doesn't over-explain, doesn't need to convince. The human psyche senses stability the same way animals sense weather changes. True magnetism is not theatrical, it's internal coherence. But even coherence, when it contrasts too sharply with a world full of contradictions, generates dissonance. That dissonance is what you perceive as strange reactions. Don't avoid them and don't collect them. Use them as a thermometer. Here's the subtle mistake many make: confusing strong energy with ego inflation. Strong energy is rooted in a living center that listens and responds. Inflation is puffed up with fantasy and loses contact with the ground. How to distinguish them? Ask yourself, can I feel my body right now? My feet, my breath, my heartbeat? If you can inhabit that sensation while speaking, your strength is real. If you disconnect from your body and ride ideas of grandeur, your strength becomes foam, and foam always collapses. The psyche of others can smell the difference. With true power, people will follow you into unknown forests. With inflated power, they'll smile politely while waiting for you to burst. To avoid that trap, practice symbolic grounding. Before entering any space, pause for 3 full breaths. In the first, release the anxiety of being seen. In the second, release the need to control outcomes. In the third, let yourself remember that presence doesn't need to prove itself. It only needs to be. From that stillness, your energy becomes medicine instead of disruption. You stop being a storm that others fear and become the quiet fire that invites transformation. In the third step, affirm silently, I am here to serve what is real. This single intention redirects the flow of your energy from fantasy toward reality. Then, take a micro-action that aligns you with your center. Walk with steady rhythm. Look at the space before looking at people. When you stop, feel the entire sole of your foot resting on the ground, and let your spine align as if an invisible thread were pulling you upward from the crown of your head. People won't know why, but they'll feel it. Someone is present. When your energy becomes strong, it also awakens the collective shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is unrecognized power. What emerges then? Unnecessary competition, comparisons, whispers, subtle alliances. The shadow always looks for someone else to project what it refuses to see in itself. In those scenarios, avoid 3 reactions: compulsively justifying yourself, playing the game of proving superiority, or giving up your center out of fear of creating division. Justifying yourself ties you to someone else's judgment. Competing lowers your frequency. Abandoning your center makes you inconsistent. So what should you do? Name what's happening without drama and return to your purpose. You might say, I see this is creating tension. Then bring the focus back by saying, what matters here is this. That phrase, what matters here is this, brings the energy field back to purpose. You don't need to win, you need to protect the meaning. Another common effect of a heightened energy is imitation. People start to speak like you, use your words, your gestures, your rhythm. Don't take it as theft or flattery. It's psychic contagion. The psyche learns by resonance before it learns by concept. When you hold a certain frequency, others find in you a tuning fork. Use that with responsibility. Teach through example, not sermons. Do things in front of others with the same naturalness with which you breathe. Work, organize, decide, pay attention to detail. Strong energy educates through presence. To educate through presence also means enduring the frustration of others. When someone sees themselves reflected in your discipline, they might attack you. Do not defend yourself by attacking back. Show the path with a simple phrase. If you'd like, I can show you how I do it. Those who are ready will approach. Those who are not will find reasons to distance themselves. Both are good. Clarity also filters. Notice how time reacts when you enter a process. At first, you may face outer resistance, calls that don't go through, emails that vanish, objects that fall, meetings that are cancelled. It's not bad luck, it's realignment. Your intention has shifted the center of gravity, and everything is adjusting. Respond with consistency. Don't complain, don't dramatize, don't push harder. Do something small and concrete that keeps the direction alive. The small done repeatedly breaks inertia. The collective psyche eventually yields to the evidence of your persistence. Now, let's speak about the effects on close relationships when your energy grows intense. 3 movements often appear: tests, demands, and confessions. Tests. They'll place absurd limits to see if you'll break. Don't compromise your integrity to pass an invented exam. Simply keep being clear and calm. Demands. They'll ask more of you than is fair, believing you can hold it all. Remember, strong energy is useless if it becomes servitude. Say no when it's no. Confessions. Truths will open before you. Things unsaid for years. Intensity is a magnet for what longs to come to light. Listen without rushing. Don't try to fix immediately. The spoken word itself is medicine. The urge to fix everything at once is often fear in disguise. You'll want to know how to soften your field without dimming it. It's not about being less. It's about being discerning. There are three regulators: intention, rhythm, and boundary. Intention: decide clearly why you enter a space. When your why is clear, your energy organizes around it instead of scattering. Rhythm: slow down your speech by 10% and soften your gaze by 10% when you notice anxiety around you. This subtle adjustment prevents other nervous systems from entering defense mode. Boundary: imagine your skin as an intelligent, porous edge. You don't absorb what's not yours. You don't invade what hasn't been given. Visualize a clear line where your responsibility ends. This symbolic image trains your nervous system and, by resonance, educates others. There are outer signs that you are carrying your intensity well. Spaces become more ordered after you pass through. Conversations grow more direct. Problems are named with courage. Decisions, though painful, are made. Creativity awakens in others. If what you leave behind is clarity and motion, you're on the right path. If what you leave behind is fear and rigidity, recalibrate. Remember, it's not about being admired, it's about helping reality bloom. A strong presence tends to activate synchronicities, pieces that suddenly fit, people who call just as you make an inner decision, repeated signs confirming your direction. The energy organized within you organizes everything around you. Don't turn this into superstition. Use it as an additional compass, not a replacement for judgment. Note what repeats 3 times in a short period. Ask yourself, what is this repetition asking of me? Then take a small action. The psyche responds to concrete gestures more than to abstract enthusiasm. If you sense unjustified hostility, remember this key. The attack speaks about the attacker, but it also reveals your effect. Instead of engaging, practice symbolic hygiene. Walk for 10 minutes, feeling your feet. Write down everything that was thrown at you and safely burn it or tear it into pieces. Breathe in longer than you exhale to reignite your presence from the body. Symbolic hygiene is not magic. It's pedagogy for the nervous system. It brings you back to your center and prevents you from reacting from the wound. People will tell you to tone it down, to be less intense. What they're really asking is that you don't make them look at themselves. Don't obey blindly. Adjust your delivery, but don't hide your fire. The world doesn't need tamed voices. It needs stable fields. When you hold your energy with humility, you invite others to do the same. Humility here doesn't mean shrinking. It means remembering that your strength was given to serve something greater than your name. When you channel your current toward a craft, a well-done job, a true relationship, or an idea that makes life better, the collective psyche makes room for you. Not immediately, it tests you first, but to the one who perseveres, it grants more trust. Practice this protocol before entering any important meeting. First, arrive 1 minute early and take in the entire space as if it were a landscape. Observe the walls, the lights, the surfaces. Name them silently in your mind. This simple act grounds you and calms the nervous system. Second, align your breathing with the pace you want the conversation to have. If you breathe slowly, the energy in the room slows down with you. If you rush, the room rushes too. Third, when you speak, let 2 words be supported by your body, one at the beginning to set direction, and one at the end to seal what has been said with presence. Fourth, when you listen, Shift your gaze away from the other person for just a second. Let it rest on a neutral point in the room. That tiny pause keeps you from merging with their emotions and gives you time to think. Fifth, summarize what you've truly heard. Doing so clears the emotional field and lowers defenses. Sixth, ask a question that invites action, not just opinion. Something like, what's the first concrete step we'll take today? Seventh, close your participation with a phrase of purpose, something that realigns the group. What we're really looking for is that small gesture gathers scattered energy into focus. And when you bring deep authenticity into your interactions, there may come a paradox. The more real you are, the more alone you may feel at times. Not because others fail to understand you, but because the path of individuation requires long stretches of silence. Don't rush to fill them with noise. In those moments, cultivate your inner world. Write down your dreams as soon as you wake up. Notice recurring symbols: rivers, houses, mountains, doors. These images are the language of the unconscious. When you start a dialogue with that deeper layer, your energy becomes rounder, softer, more adaptable. A round edge enters any space more easily than a sharp one. Learn to read the temperature of a group before you speak. There are cold groups that need warmth, a brief story that awakens meaning. There are hot groups that need containment, structure, clarity, and calm. When you bring what's missing, your energy is not felt as excess, but as medicine. And if someone still reacts with resistance, thank them inwardly. They've just revealed a place where your presence isn't meant to enter. A closed door saves you effort and returns your time. There's a decisive practice that transforms your impact. After every encounter, ask yourself, what stayed alive here? It could be an idea, a gesture, a commitment, a feeling. If nothing remained alive, your intensity dissolved into performance. But if something, however small, stayed alive, then your energy took form. The next day, nourish that form with one small action. True magnetism is built through loyalty to what's alive, not through spectacle. When you sustain elevated energy for weeks, a beautiful phenomenon unfolds. The environment begins to adjust to you. People stop testing your limits because they've learned that you won't leave your center. They relax. They sense that your intensity isn't a knife, it's a lamp. And in that moment, be generous. Share your method, your language, your opportunities. If you use your voltage only to shine alone, the field around you becomes hostile. But if you use it to illuminate, the field holds you. Remember the ecology of your energy. You cannot be at full voltage all day. The current needs rhythm, deep work and deep rest, meaningful conversation and nourishing silence, public presence and private retreat. Without rhythm, voltage becomes noise. With rhythm, it becomes music. Write down your sacred hours, times when no one can interrupt you, even if they try. You don't need to justify them. You need to protect them. Those who don't guard their rhythms end up relying on applause to feel alive. Those who do exist even when no one is watching. If right now you feel that your energy is overflowing, try this integration exercise. Sit with your spine straight. Bring your awareness to the base of your spine. Imagine a gentle weight sinking into the ground. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Repeat 5 times. Then ask yourself, what intention is guiding my day? Write it in one short phrase. Everything you do today will be a channel for that phrase. If something doesn't fit it, it's not for today. You'll notice how chaos starts to organize itself. Reactions around you soften, not because you've dimmed, but because your current no longer spills everywhere. And remember this, strong energy calls for responsibility. You're not here to impress, you're here to imprint. Real marks on the world. Work well done. Words that support. Decisions that heal. Every time you cross a doorway, remember that you carry a field with you. Your silence carries weight. Your gestures carry weight. Your gaze carries weight. Weigh them with love. If there's noise around you, confusion, sarcasm, distraction, be the metronome. If there's fear, be the breath that enters. If there's inertia, be the first movement. How others react to your intensity is not your main task. It's simply information. Your real task is to guard your center and place it in service of what truly matters. When you do this, the world around you, people, projects, paths, begins to move in a new rhythm. And without any announcement, things that once seemed impossible start to happen. The conversation that never took place, the decision that never arrived, the movement everyone was waiting for, suddenly unfolds. And you realize that the person they were waiting for was you. Not because you shouted, but because you held steady. And when you hold steady, reality recognizes you and begins to cooperate. Then you understand that your energy was never too strong. It was simply asking for a larger container. And you are building that container right now, with every breath you take, every word you anchor, every boundary you honor, and every simple act that makes the world around you more alive, more ordered, and more human. If this message resonated with you, take a deep breath and remember, every word you've heard is an invitation to embody your own center. Subscribe now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next step on this path of awareness and presence. And always remember, the world doesn't change when you speak louder. It changes when your silence has weight.